the Democrats want to have any chance at retaking the U.S. Senate next year, which is an absolutely crucial task in terms of, I don't know, not only the Democratic Party's future prospects, but maybe the Republic's future prospects. If the Democrats want any chance at retaking the Senate, they will almost certainly need to win the Senate race in the great state of North Carolina. Now, that is a state where a Democrat hasn't won a Senate race since 2008, which is 17 years ago. And so because of that sort of uphill battle suggested by that track record, Democrats have been really hoping they could recruit a really good candidate, like a blockbuster heavyweight candidate for that race in particular. Like, let's say you could invent a North Carolina Democrat who has won like a half dozen statewide elections. Let's say you could invent a North Carolina Democrat who has won statewide elections multiple times, even when Donald Trump was winning North Carolina on the same ballot. Let's say you'd invent a North Carolina Democrat who is a household name in the state, who has never lost an election in the state, who has high favorability ratings even after decades in the spotlight in that state. You'd have to invent him, unless you were able to recruit Roy Cooper. And today, Democrats got that wish when former North Carolina governor and former North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper announced that he is, in fact, going to run for that Senate seat.
When you made me your Attorney General, I prosecuted criminals and took on scammers, big banks, and drug companies. When you made me your governor, we balanced the state budget every year and worked with Republicans to raise teacher pay, recruit thousands of better-paying jobs, and expand Medicaid to more than 650,000 working North Carolinians. But right now, our country's facing a moment as fragile as any I can remember. And the decisions we make in the next election will determine if we even have a middle class in America anymore. I never really wanted to go to Washington. I just wanted to serve the people of North Carolina right here where I've lived all my life. But these are not ordinary times.
These are not ordinary times. And if anybody knows just how not ordinary these times are, it may be Roy Cooper, because the other thing to know about Mr. Cooper and this new race he's about to run, to Democrats' delight, is that this man has been through some things, some things that qualify him perhaps uniquely for this moment in Washington. He has served in North Carolina. He has not served in Washington, but he brings an experience, a level of political experience to Washington if he wins this race, which is, again, perhaps uniquely suited to this moment. And that is because during Roy Cooper's 2 terms as governor in North Carolina, Republicans turned North Carolina into kind of their anti-democracy pilot project. In 2016, when Roy Cooper ousted the sitting Republican governor of North Carolina to win the State House for the first time, the very first thing Republicans in the legislature did was they started stripping powers from the governor's office. Oh, the governor's going to be a Democrat now? Well, then no more powers for the governor. Republicans basically said to North Carolina voters, sure, okay, maybe you can elect a Democrat, but if so, we will not allow that Democrat to wield the powers of this office. For all 8 years that Roy Cooper was governor, Republicans were particularly focused on not just taking away his powers broadly, which they were, but explicitly and specifically they wanted to take away any control he would have as governor over administering the state's elections. They wanted that power to be in Republican hands. They're still at it. Last year, when North Carolina voters elected another Democrat to succeed Roy Cooper as governor, the Republicans in the legislature passed a law that moved control of the state elections board from the governor's office to the state auditor's office. Why would you give control over elections to the state auditor? That's a job for a guy who, keeps tabs on the state's finances. Why would he be in charge of elections all of a sudden? Oh, they gave that guy the job of administering elections or overseeing elections because while Democrats won the other races, it was a Republican who won the state auditor's race. So suddenly it's the auditor's office that should control the state's elections. In case it wasn't exactly clear what they were doing, right? That said, what started in North Carolina has really been embraced as a model by Republicans in other states. North Carolina has essentially been a testing ground for Republicans in terms of small d Democratic disempowering of the opposite party. And Roy Cooper has been their prime target. When it comes to taking power and then seeking a sort of autocratic breakthrough, using the power of government to stay in power yourself and to deny the ability to govern to your political opponents, North Carolina is where we have most practically been experiencing that in recent years before the moment that we're in right now. Which means that if Roy Cooper, in fact, wins this Senate race in North Carolina, he's going to bring some highly relevant experience to Donald Trump's Washington from North Carolina. Joining us now for his very first TV interview since announcing his Senate run is the former governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper, Governor, it's really nice of you to be here tonight. I know this is a really busy day for you. Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks, Rachel. Glad to be with you. And I'm certainly thinking about the family and friends of the officer in New York. Terrible tragedy. But thank you for having me on.
You said in your announcement today that you never really wanted to go to Washington. You only ever wanted to serve the people of North Carolina, which you've done as Attorney General and as a two-term governor in the state. But you said you were getting into this race because these are no ordinary times. What did you mean by that? What made you decide this is what you need to do right now?
There are so many bad things coming out of Washington that hurt the middle class and hurt people who are trying and dreaming of being in the middle class, seeing the health care stripped away from them, seeing tax breaks for the wealthy and a pittance for them. Time and time again, we are seeing Washington hurt everyday people, taking food out of the mouths of hungry children. I've thought that I need to make a difference at a time like this. I need to run for the United States Senate because I've been able to work with Republicans in North Carolina, and I have been able to try and stop them when they do bad things. We expanded health care to more than 670,000 North Carolinians. We were able to put a plan in place that helps address the high cost of living for North Carolinians by eliminating $4 billion in medical debt for 2 million North Carolinians. I want to take those problem-solving skills to Washington and make a difference for North Carolina. I love my state. I love my country. It was time for me to step up yet again, and I'm ready to do this.
You talked about that healthcare accomplishment. When you ask Democrats and I think political observers around the country about your political record, the sort of signature political achievement that people go to right away in talking about your record in North Carolina is that you did get health insurance for more than 600,000 people in your state who didn't have health insurance before, which is just a generationally life-saving thing for regular working families. Given that, I can't help but note that the reason this seat is open is because Republican U.S. Senator Thom Tillis opted not to run for re-election. And he did that right after he opposed Donald Trump's massive bill that will strip health insurance from potentially hundreds of thousands of people in your state who currently owe the health insurance they've got to you. I just have to ask you about that. What does it say to you that Thom Tillis couldn't support that bill from Donald Trump and that he couldn't stay in his Senate seat after he decided to oppose it?
It shows that what Republicans in Washington were saying is not true. And in fact, 500,000 to 1 million North Carolinians could lose their health insurance, not just with Medicaid expansion, but on the Affordable Care Act marketplace. We built a coalition in North Carolina that allowed us to expand Medicaid and help rural counties. And I encourage people to go to roycooper.com and learn about what we did to expand Medicaid and try to learn about what we're going to do to move our state and our country forward. And we'd love to have you as a part of this campaign. But when I handed that Medicaid card to Penny on the first day of Medicaid expansion, I saw tears in her eyes, and we knew that we had accomplished something getting health insurance to people who had never had it before. Now, Washington Republicans are going to strip it away. And I think that is such a contrast in this race, because we know what Washington Republicans are doing to health care in this country. And we talk about lowering the cost of everyday working families who are holding their breath and waiting for that next car repair bill, worry about how they're going to pay for child care. They need health insurance. Every American needs health insurance. Here we gave it to more of them. They're going to take it away again. We're going to make sure that people of North Carolina know about this. And when I get to Washington, I'm going to do something about it. So many people in Washington just want to be something. I want to do something. And I believe that rural Americans are going to let their members of Congress and their senators have it once they find out that they're about to lose life-saving health insurance. We need to get that message out.
Former North Carolina governor, former North Carolina attorney general, now U.S. Senate candidate Roy Cooper. Thank you so much for your time tonight, talking to us as your first TV interview after announcing you'd be taking the Senate race. Democrats all over the country have been sort of wondering whether you're going to take this leap. It's a really big deal for the country that you are in this campaign. Thanks for joining us tonight to talk about it.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm ready to roll.